Hi everyone, in this lesson we are going to go through task 1 of the academic writing test and show you what a model answer would look like. It is very important in the exam not to open the question paper until you are told to do so. Please write your name and candidate number in the spaces at the top of the question paper and answer sheet. Once you have done this, we will begin. Okay, let's get started. For task 1, it says you should spend about 20 minutes on this task, which you already know from the previous video. Then it says the graphs below gives information about computer ownership as a percentage of the population between 2002 and 2010 and by level of education for the years 2002 and 2010. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Write at least 150 words, which again is something you already know from my previous video. Okay, let's get started. As I mentioned in my previous video, to get the highest possible score in your report, you need to give an introduction, summarize the most important points in the diagram, and then compare and contrast the most important changes in the diagram. So let's look at the first part of your report, the introduction. Your introduction is the most important paragraph in your report as it shows the examiner if you understand the question. To get a high mark in your report, all you need to do is inform the examiner as to what the diagram is showing you. In other words, tell the examiner what you see. All you have to do is simply paraphrase the title of the graph and include a time frame if there is one. Your introduction only needs to be 1 or 2 sentences that state what the IELTS writing task 1 shows. So a perfect introduction would be: the bar charts show data about computer ownership with a further classification by level of education from 2002 to 2010. This is a perfect introduction. Now read what they are asking you to do again. They are asking you to summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. In the previous video, I told you that to get the highest score possible, you should give an introduction, which we have, summarize the most important points in the diagram, which they are asking us to do here, and then compare and contrast the most important changes in this diagram, which again is something they are asking us to do here. Let's focus on the second paragraph of our report, summarizing the most important points in the diagram. Here, just simply describe what you see happening. So, for example, a perfect answer would be: a steady but significant rise can be seen in the percentage of the population that owned a computer over the period. Just over half the population owned computers in 2002, whereas by 2010, 3 out of 4 people had a home computer. To do well in task 1 of the writing exam, it is important to be able to understand the information shown in diagrams and graphs. You can see from the bar chart that in 2002, more than 50% of the population had computers. This is why in our report we say just over half the population owned computers in 2002. It is simply another way to say 50% of the population. When we say by 2010, 3 out of 4 people had a computer, we can see this by looking at 2010 on the bar chart and seeing that 70% of the population had a computer. 70 divided by 80 is the same as 3 over 4. So this is where we get 3 out of 4 people, because you cannot have half a person. In our third paragraph of our report, we need to compare and contrast the information shown to us. For this part of the report, you need to analyze the information. In other words, look for similarities and differences, look at the graphs and try to identify what is similar and what's different. And give figures and details. Give specific details by making reference to the data on the graphs. A perfect response to this part would be: an analysis of the data by level of education shows that higher levels of education correspond to higher levels of computer ownership in both of those years. In 2002, only around 15% of those who did not finish high school had a computer, but this figure had trebled by 2010. There were also considerable increases of approximately 30% for those with a high school diploma or an unfinished college education, reaching 65% and 85% respectively in 2010. However, graduates and postgraduates proved to have the greatest level of ownership in 2010 at 90% and 95% respectively, 20% higher than in 2002. Although it is not necessary to give a conclusion in task 1 of the writing test, I always tell my students to try and give one sentence as an ending to the report. For example, in this question, the ending suggested by the model answer given by IELTS is, "The last decade has seen a substantial growth in computer ownership in general. And across all education levels, this is the end of the report. The best way to practice for the writing test of the IELTS exam is to get yourself a set of IELTS exam papers and practice the writing test questions over and over again." In the next lesson, we will look at task 2 of the IELTS academic writing test. See you soon.